The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this CDI webinar on navigating UCAS. My name is Jonathan Hardwick. I work for Inspiring Futures. Inspiring Futures is part of Group GTI, which provides high quality IAG for students, their parents and schools in the UK and internationally. Before working for IF, I was the head of sixth form and UCAS coordinator. I have been a trainer on behalf of UCAS and am currently involved in advising students, their parents and advisors about careers in higher education in schools. We have about 85 or so delegates registered to attend this webinar. So at the moment you are in listen-only mode. To ask questions, on the right of your screen are some buttons. Type in the question and I will answer at the end, or if I can't do that, please email me your question. My email address will be on the slide at the end of the webinar, and the webinar is being recorded. I'm very pleased to be giving this webinar. My brief is to provide an introduction, so I hope that it's not too basic. There are some quite familiar names on the list of delegates, so I hope I'm not telling Granny how to suck eggs. And in particular, I've been asked to highlight the terminology and chronology of what can be a complex and sometimes confusing and stressful process for students and their parents and sometimes advisors. When preparing this webinar presentation, I've used materials that we use in schools and colleges, materials we've had from UCAS, and I could talk for a very, very long time. I will try to be brief, and if anybody would like the presentation, I'm very happy to share it. So if you email me after the webinar, I'll email it out to people. Wherever possible, I will reference UCAS resources, but other resources are available. I'm not suggesting this is the only way to do things. The screen in front of you shows roughly what I want to talk about. I will aim to talk for 30 minutes. At this time of the year, I and colleagues, and probably some of you listening as well, are being asked to talk to Year 12 students or equivalent about what's going to happen after they leave school or college. I normally start these sessions by saying, what's the difference between being in the sixth form and what you've done at GCSE? Then they ask the students to think about what they're planning to do after school, after college. The majority of the pupils I work with are telling me things about higher education, so I ask them to consider a little bit deeper, and I often ask them to close their eyes and visualize, draw up a mental image of what higher education will be like. And then, depending on the size of the group, describe to a partner or perhaps to the whole group. Some of the answers we get back are about, I want to do something for a vocation, I want to develop certain skills. Other answers I get back are, I love learning, I want to know about more a certain subject. Most, though, tell me they see it as a springboard into something different. And when they come to visualize the higher education experience, we get all sorts of answers. Some had visions of very old-fashioned traditional universities, old-style buildings. Some have visions of very modern, cutting-edge architecture. Some want a city basis, some want a campus basis. Some think about lectures, seminars, practicals, workshops. Some think about the demands of study. Others think about the activities, and some think about getting away from home. being independent, doing things their own way. Digging down a bit deeper, these are some of the main reasons that students put forward for going on to university or college. And I use this list as an introduction to UCAS TV. Down on the bottom of the screen, what is higher education, UCAS TV, and in brackets 1.23 is the length of the clip, and then a link to the clip. I'm not planning to show you all the clips. I timed up how long it would run, and we would be here until 3:30, 4 o'clock. I can commend the clips to you. They are all very, very good. They are well received by students and by parents. I'd like to get a little bit of student interaction if I can, so some numbers. Now I'm sure as professional careers and HE advisors we will all get these, but when I put these important numbers up I get some very interesting answers. Student survey came up with undergraduates saying they work academically something between 20 to 60 hours a week. So I've taken the average. 30 plus weeks a year at university or college. I'm sure you're all with me now for the number of years. And the final one, higher education is not a cheap option. So the point I'm making is that as students think about university and college, it's a big commitment. Lots of careful thinking and lots of information is needed. And there are many sources of information. Research is very, very important. And UCAS website has lots and lots of information that will help students research. UCAS divide the applicant journey up into 3 simple steps. Step 1, choosing courses, research. Step 2, applying, and then step 3, getting ready for and starting the course. We have a thriving, highly successful, highly regarded higher education sector in the UK. And to apply to UK higher education providers, it is primarily through UCAS. We have lots of choice, lots of applicants. However, students sometimes get a bit confused about the rest of the world, and I had some questions earlier this week. How do I apply to Harvard? I can't find it on UCAS. And I patiently explained to the student that Harvard is in the United States and they make a different application. Certainly, working for Inspiring Futures, I found lots of students thinking about degrees taught in English outside of the UK and degrees taught in other languages. A relatively newish classification of UK universities is clearly exercising the minds of some students, their parents and advisors. The high tariff universities attract a lot of student and parental interest. Medium tariff universities, national, international catchment, slightly lower grades, and then the rather more local catchment, slightly lower grades. And I'm sure we'll all agree we are seeing a gradation of university entry requirements, which sometimes makes it harder for students to choose institutions, providers to apply for. What to study? Is it going to be a vocational degree, clear career focus, or is it going to be a subject degree leading on to professional training, postgraduate qualification, perhaps a master's? Again, down on the bottom here, getting started, what to study, a UCAS clip of 3:06, very good. Get the students to watch it. Sometimes show this to parents as well. A good basis for discussion. And the discussion can then be widened out into what should a student consider and their parents consider when choosing a course and an institution. There is a lot to consider, and in my experience the entry requirements sometimes gets rather too much prominence, and students and their parents get a bit concerned about what needs to be done to get in rather than all the other things. For example, what happens in years 2 and 3 of the course? How is the course taught? How is it assessed? Location, other facilities, etc., which all contribute to the university college experience. And in my view, a happy student who likes where they are, enjoys being in the institution, is more likely to do well. But there does seem, in my experience, quite a rush to look at the admissions criteria rather than the bigger holistic picture. It's therefore really a plea to say to students, and in many schools and colleges we're working with, they started now already, to do lots and lots of research. Choosing a university or college is not something that can be done on a wet afternoon when there's nothing better to do. It takes time and effort, but that time and effort is well spent, in my view. Lots and lots of sources available, and I'm aware that at least 1 or 2 members of the audience, if they're still there, actually are involved in the publication of resources. I often refer to other guides, but in this case referring to UCAS, regional events, opportunities to speak to lots of universities, attending open days, and again a UCAS TV clip and some virtual tours, and UCAS on various social media sites. The research should generate a list of universities that the student likes, they're interested in, they want to find out more about, they want to go and visit. They come down to a short list and eventually they arrive at 5. Process takes time. It takes time to visit, filter. Already schools and colleges are encouraging students to visit, go to open days. The intention is to have most of the visits done by the end of this term, beginning of next term. Early application is helpful, and I'll speak more about chronology later. Research is over and done. We're now towards the start of the autumn term and applying through UCAS. Electronic application via the UCAS website, via UCAS Apply. Some key features. UCAS Apply will be live for applications from the 6th of September. Oxford, Cambridge, Medicine, Dentistry, Vet Science, early deadline, 15th of October. But most schools and colleges set their own internal application deadlines. A couple of my friends are admissions tutors. It's not fair, it's not just, but early application is advisable. One friend I'm thinking of in particular, He is an admissions tutor in a very large university. He gets lots of applications. When they start coming through in early September, he has plenty of time. As it gets into December, he has a family, he has other commitments he'd like to honour as well. So early application is important. And more details about the UCAS timeline here, but I'll also flag up some key dates later. This is what the current system looks like. I'm afraid I don't have access yet to 2017 in exactly final form. There are some fine tweaks going on. There is a very helpful blog. Students say they like listening to this. Well worth directing your students towards it. In essence, once Apply becomes live, start populating it with personal details, information about education and background, employment, which includes volunteering work experience. Start thinking about the personal statement. And a quick plug, if you can stand the sound of my voice, I've been asked to run a session on personal statements for the CDI, another webinar coming up. The bit that goes in last is the choices, then confirm everything is okay. The school will then add its reference. I've been doing UCAS long enough to remember paper forms where people made copious mistakes, mainly in transferring what they'd written on their scrap of paper onto the paper UCAS form, getting the wrong institution code, course code, campus code, start date or whatever. That is virtually impossible to do now. This is just a copy, but if you start putting data in here and it comes up with the wrong campus code, it will be corrected. You will get a warning message. It is virtually impossible to go wrong. Drop-down menus. You can't, for example, choose Aston University and put in anything other than A80. Coming to the subject, you choose the subject, you've got the course code here. It is impossible to go wrong. Universities face lots and lots of applicants who are highly qualified, so an increasing number of universities, increasing number of courses need something to help them differentiate between these strong applicants. The UCAS view and the university's point of view is that it is the applicant's responsibility to find out if they need to do an additional aptitude test, submit a piece of work, attend an interview. In other words, students, I tell them, you're big boys and girls now, you've got to take some responsibility, and if you miss the deadline, then I'm afraid that's your tough luck. Again, on the UCAS website, lots of information about additional entry requirements and admissions tests. I'm grateful to friends and colleagues at UCAS for this. These are some of the things that applicants get wrong. When I first heard this figure about the failure to check entry requirements, I was aghast. Apparently, 13% of students apply for courses where they do not have the correct entry profile. In other words, they apply for a course when they're not doing an essential subject. Now, this was explained to me and put into context by London School of Economics. LSE for economics courses requires A-level maths and at a very high standard. They had a student who applied without doing A-level maths. His profile was very strong. He had very strong GCSE grades, very strong predicted grades, but no maths. And I'm not going to name the school. The school didn't check very well either. The school and the candidate thought the student was being aspirational. The LSE view is you're delusional. So when explaining to students about entry requirements, we need to perhaps get the thesaurus out and go through what requirement is. It's necessary, mandatory, required. And explain in contrast that preferred means universities like that, they prefer it, it's favoured, but it's not essential or required. I've mentioned the admissions test. A bit of fat fingering on the email address where it's not verified. The bane of university's lifetime confirmation and clearing is that students haven't named their qualifications correctly or completely filled them in, and there is a lot of confusion about the support code for fees. Important that perhaps someone does a little bit of looking over shoulders. Application form has disappeared off to the university or college. Sometimes admission staff get a bad press. Personally, I think they have a very, very tough job. It is very difficult if you are in a university with lots of applicants for a popular course to say yes to that student, no to that student. I briefly explained to students that some universities have a centralised function, a group of professional admission staff, others run a departmental system. It doesn't mean anything at all how rapidly you get back your first offer. When I was teaching, a frisson of excitement goes through the school when people start getting offers back. I know that some universities pride themselves on having a very, very quick turnaround. It does not necessarily mean you are a better applicant. It simply is there are different ways of universities operating. Some have sequential offers. They send out offers in batches. Some wait for a gathered field. They've got every application in and then they make decisions. What universities and the admission staff base the decision on varies. Some put great emphasis on GCSE grades. Some put great emphasis on A-level and predictions or equivalent predictions. Some admissions test. Some universities think the personal statement is an essential part of the selection procedure. Others say it's nice to have, but we don't actually use it very much. We don't know who wrote it. However, universities are unanimous that an honest, constructive, supported reference is important. And then it's a matter of yes or no. Interview, portfolio, practical work also add in extra data. The decisions, usually conditional, based upon A-level results or equivalent, sometimes unconditional, usually post-results applicants, but we're aware, I'm aware, I'm sure you are as well, that some universities are offering unconditional offers to attracting good students. From a couple of schools I'm working in, that doesn't seem to be effective. The student's taken or we've received the unconditional offer and then hasn't actually accepted the place because they've decided, perhaps a little cynically, that if the university is buying in like this, perhaps I don't want to go there. That is just a personal view. It could be completely wrong. Unsuccessful when perhaps the student has overreached themselves or has not supported the application. A few students get suggested an alternative course. I used to be very good at working out A-levels to points. I'm not so good on my 56 times table, etc. Very useful documentation here from UCAS on the new tariff and a tariff calculator for the whole range of qualifications. And I think UCAS should be praised on having a very, very good system of information here. UCAS track is for the applicant, and there's also UCAS track for advisors if you're working in a school or college to follow what's happening with their application. And UCAS track will be used to reply to invitations and offers and manage the application through extra clearing and adjustment. Again, a very nice little video clip, 2 minutes 34. I show this to students at the appropriate time. I know it's also flagged up in lots of schools, colleges' websites, so parents can see it as well. Applications being received by the university. Replies start coming back. They're conditional in most cases, grades or points, but sometimes, even with a well-researched application, the student doesn't get any offers, and that's when UCAS Extra comes in. By April, most students will be holding 2 conditional offers, firm and insurance, and the student needs to be comfortable with both, and the grades for the insurance offer should be lower, in other words, more easily attainable than the firm. And apparently, again, I was surprised at this, UCAS data shows that a good percentage, nearly 30% of students have their insurance at the same level or higher than their firm offer. So a little bit of education about what insurance means and firm means is necessary, and then results coming out in August. Little bit about UCAS Extra. And then again, a very good video clip. What I did when I was teaching, I had a handout. I still have a handout which we give out to schools as this, because not everybody is going to be involved in UCAS Extra. So usually when talking to students and parents, I just say this is one of the safety nets. Moving on fairly rapidly in the academic year, we're now into confirmation with clearing and adjustment in August. The last couple of years, exam results, certainly in the schools I've been working with, have been very good. There's been celebration, and most students have got in to their first or insurance offer. There has not been very much activity in clearing and a little bit of activity in adjustment. Again, a very useful video clip to look at. However, confirmation is a fraught time for those students who don't get in. Option 1, a near miss. Now, near miss is beginning to stretch a bit. For a Russell Group university, I heard about a student getting in who had missed their offer by 4 A-level grades. Talk of 3 and 2 A-level grades missing, quite common. 1 is a very near miss. It's therefore always worth the student, with the support of school and sometimes with parents, contacting the university and say, are you going to be able to take me? Near miss is becoming quite common. If not, then insurance choice. If not, clearing. And last year there were some surprisingly high profile university names and courses in clearing. So again, emphasising to students and parents, UCAS Extra as one safety net, UCAS Clearing as a second, and for a few students, adjustment. That's when the students got higher than anticipated grades and essentially would like to trade up. Adjustment, relatively low numbers. Results day is pressurised for schools, colleges, students, parents, advisors, and in particular for UCAS. There's a bit of window of time now until clearing can actually start happening and enter a choice. That's to give a bit of thinking time. And then quite wisely, UCAS say it's time to stop for the day and have a bit of downtime. Early in the day, applicants can contact universities and colleges. Patience will be required. It's likely that the number will be busy. And then sequentially adding via the clearing choice, using track, and if unsuccessful, sequentially applying for another one, and if necessary, another. As I said earlier, certainly in the experience of myself and the colleagues working for IF, we have had a very quiet time during clearing, and I think that's echoed by most people I've been talking to in schools and colleges. Adjustment, again via track, reconsider where and what to study, a trading up process, a very useful UCAS clip. Lots and lots of support from UCAS, mainly on the website, sections for students, parents and advisors. I've promoted the how-to guides, the UCAS TV, UCAS Connect on various social media. You can call a advisor for help. UCAS organise training and contact them via the website there. Just to finish off, two rather busy slides with some key dates. 9th of May, an updated UCAS search tool will be available. Usernames and passwords being sent out to schools. Advisor apply opening up in mid-May. Applicant apply later May. Start populating with personal details, etc. I've mentioned the 6th of September deadline. I've mentioned the 15th of deadline, final deadline, except for some art and design colleges. UCAS Extra I've mentioned. This is the deadline for art and design. The reason it's a later deadline is that lots of students who are applying for art and design courses will have moved from school, will be on a foundation course, and it's to give the tutors at the foundation course provider time to know their students, the student to start the diagnostic process of the year and finalise their application. Some more key dates. The absolutely final one is going into clearing, using UCAS Extra, clearing, results. And the absolutely final deadline, though personally I've never known anybody get quite that close, is you apply and basically pack your bags and go to university college the following day. All this information is on the UCAS website with the link there below. Thank you very much for listening. I can see there have been a few questions coming in. No, there haven't. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I take that back. There haven't been any questions coming in. If you want to contact me, I'm very happy to answer questions individually. If you'd like a copy of the slides, please email me at that address and I will respond to them as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for listening.